Right now, in 2024, outdoor kitchens like this seem to be the in thing. Everybody wants one. So I've built this fully mobile, weatherproof and completely loaded with smart features outdoor kitchen. And I'm going to be showing you keen DIYers how you can build one of these yourselves. So step one is always the planning. What I've done here is laid out a couple of tape measures for the width and depth of the outdoor kitchen, the worktop, so that I can plan where the items are going to go. So over here we've got the Gosney pizza oven and Napoleon barbecue. I'll tell you more about these later on in the video, but for now I've just used them to get an idea of the space that we've got, so the size we need to build this kitchen to. Now there are other things going on in the kitchen. We've got a fridge and a sink. I'll plan all that out later, but for now I just want to know the overall size of the kitchen so that I can build the mobile base. For me, I want this kitchen to be mobile. I don't want it to be stuck in one position. I'm going to put it on some heavy duty casters so we can move it around and have it wherever we want in the garden. Now we know the overall size of this thing, let's make a base to put our framework on. So I've got a couple of 6x2 C24 joists left over from another job. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use these to make my base plate. The rest of the build, where possible, is going to be non-combustible because of course barbecues, pizza ovens, they get really hot. But the base should be fine to build out of a nice strong 6x2 like this. So I'm going to cut these to length and then we're going to build the overall size of the base. The base length is going to be 3140. Now why that size, I hear you ask? Well, the worktop's going to be 3 meters and the metal stud work that we're going to use to build the rest of the walls is 70 mil. So 2 times 70 mil, 140 plus 3 meters. That gives us the overall size of the base. Overall width for this needs to be 1 meter. So I've cut a couple of these bits of timber, taking into account the width of the 2 side pieces here, and that will give us an overall width of 1 meter. Now I'm using some big 150 mil screws to tie the 2 pieces together, going through the end here, pilot holing it first so I don't split the end. So I've put some more bits of 6x2 every 600 mil along the deck here. Now I was going to go 400 mil, but I need to be conscious of keeping the weight down. You'll see why in a little bit. I've also put a little block in each corner. So I'm going to flip this over. So that's the bottom of the base now, and I've got something a little bit special. These are a heavy duty caster. They've got, of course, a wheel and a foot, and you adjust the height of these via this ratcheting system. 4 of these will hold a ton of weight. So we need to build this thing within a ton. It's going to be tight. I read a ton, excuse the pun, of reviews, and these things came up top for a leveling caster. So now I'm going to screw each one of these to the bottom of the base in all 4 corners. I'm pilot holing the wood first and then using some wood screws to fix the casters to the frame. I'm going to do this for all 4 corners. I'll put links to these things along with a lot of the things that we're using for this build in the description down below. So now the feet are on, I can flip the base back over and then we can see how easily it rolls on the casters. It rolls nice and free, and now we should be able to level it up. Before we move on to building any of the walls or anything like that, we need to make sure this base is perfectly level. So it's currently out by a couple of mil, not too bad. We can use the adjustment on these casters to bring the feet down and level the base up. I'll work my way around, manoeuvring the feet until we get the perfect level. Them casters really are brilliant for this job. I might pop on Amazon and get a couple more and just put a couple in the middle just to make sure that there's no sag going to occur across the span of these joists. Now I've got some 18mm tongue and groove OSB. Of course we want this to fit the base exactly, and the good thing is because we know this sheet is perfectly square, it's square from the factory, we can use this sheet to square up the base if it's out very slightly. Make sure it's nice and flush on the end, but back it off just a mil or two so that anything we put on here doesn't get fouled by the edge. And then what we're going to do is back it off the front very slightly as well, and we'll be able to see if the whole thing is square. You don't need a nail gun, you can do this with an impact driver and some screws. It's just as good, it's just slower. All I'm going to do is pop a nail in the corner, just like that, and what that does is allows me to maneuver that board. These boards look a different colour. They're the same board. This one's just an old board that I had left over from my workshop build. So if you wonder why it looks a little bit grubby, that's why, but I might as well use it on here. Now I'm just going around with the nail gun and fixing the OSB to the base. The excess of this board overhangs. All we want to do is cut that flush with the base. So what I'm going to do, take a measurement of the excess from underneath the board and just mark it on the top. We'll run a line along there and just buzz it off with a saw. I'm using my track saw to remove the excess. You don't have to. A circular saw will do just fine. And it looks like I've just built a giant skateboard. So now we can move on to constructing the framework for our outdoor kitchen. Now it's important that we don't make the framework from timber. Whilst timber's very strong, it is also very combustible. The only bit of this build really that's combustible is the base of this thing. The rest will be made out of metal and cement board. This is U and C channel. It's metal stud work, so you find it in a lot of modern houses these days. This is the 70mm stuff. All you do with this stuff, you place it inside the channel, you twist it, and then you use these little tech screws, metal screws, to go through and fix the studs in place. So essentially this is a track, this is a stud, and what we do is we go around and build the walls. I'm going to start by building 3 walls for the main structure up to roof height, and then we'll build an inner structure to support the worktop and of course the stuff that we're going to have within the kitchen. I start by taking a bunch of measurements so I know what size walls I want. There's a couple of options for cutting this stuff. You could use a good quality tin snip or a grinder with a cutting disc. This is probably quicker, and make sure you're using gloves and eye protection. I'm using an Ox graphite pencil to transfer the measurements to the metal, and then I use my grinder to batch cut all the metal to the correct length. I'm going to make the walls in the workshop. It's easier to do it on the floor, so we'll head up there, cut some metal and construct the walls. So we've got 8 uprights. I'm going to put the 2 end ones in first. Now at this stage it's not going to necessarily be square. The whole thing will still be able to move very slightly, but that's not a problem. All we need to do is do the 2 end uprights first. To do that I position the studs and then use these little metal screws to fix the track to the stud. Now the ends are in, make a mark at every 400 for the centre of the inner studs. We can then position the studs on the marks and fix them to the track using the screws. So that is our back wall built, and you can see over there I've built the side wall as well. I've done 2 of them. I'm not going to make you watch this all again. You're just screwing these bits of metal together. It really is pretty easy to do once you get the hang of it. If you're following along at home, just repeat that process for whatever sections of wall you're building. This is the beauty of metal stud work. So what we're going to do now is fix these to the base. So we're now lifting the walls onto the base, and we're going to screw them in the corners using the same screws as we did to screw our track together. So we've got 3 walls up. Now remember, whilst these are fixed in position, if you come this end, you can still move a little bit until we put some sheets on it. Putting the sheets on it, in this case cement board and metal Cladco, when we put them on it's going to rack it, the whole thing is going to get really rigid. At that point that's when we'll make sure the walls are plumb, we'll level everything up. At this stage all we need is this frame. So now the external walls are up, I am planning out for the internal construction for the worktop, for the barbecue and all that kind of stuff. We need to frame all that now. So all these barbecues are a little bit different. You get some instructions and they tell you what the opening needs to be for your built-in barbecue. And then at this end I've got the pizza oven, and I'll probably have a little built-in door under here to store the gas bottle for that and some other things. You know how to build the framework now. We're just going to repeat that. So I think I'll get some of this built and then it'll all become a little bit more obvious. piece here, another little wall that I've made, that's the main support for the worktop. So the worktop will sit at that level. Now I'll make some more small little walls coming this way out to the width for the worktop, and that'll give us the perfect support to sit our worktop on. So I'm now making the framework for the built-in barbecue. Now this is where it's very bespoke to whatever barbecue you have got. Built-in barbecues, we need to build the frame for the recess so that they can sit in there and be supported. And I tell you what, it's absolutely boiling out here. It's 30, 31 degrees. You watch, I'll get this finished and then the sun will go in and we'll have an awful summer. So refer to the instructions and build the framework with the metal. And guys, if you're not subscribed, now's the time, because there's some huge projects coming. You're not going to want to miss them. Projects that are so big, it's going to make something like this look small. So make sure you're subscribed and hit like, because that helps this video reach more people. So I've made these little front panels. They go in between the uprights, and what they're going to do is give us something to not only support the worktop, but to give us something to screw our cement board to, because we're going to put cement board along this whole thing. Again, that's non-combustible, and it gives us something to finish onto as well. So this is 12mm cement fibre board. It's an exterior grade construction board, and what this is going to do is give us the strength in our structure. So we've made the shape with the metal, and now we're going to put this on. That'll rack it, give us all the strength. But why don't we just use OSB? Well, we could do, but we'd probably have the neighbourhood's biggest bonfire, because of course this is going underneath the barbecue and it gets very hot. What we're going to do is cut it to size and simply screw it to the metal. Do you want me to do a dusty job, or do you want it?
Oh, you can do it.
Thought you might say that. So Chris is just drilling. Chris has just got a little, let me show him, got a little countersink, little trend piece. I'll put a link in the description for all these little handy bits. It basically drills a hole through the cement board and countersinks at the same time. The perfect depth for the board, and then we can just use some screws to fix it through to the metal. Makes this whole thing really sturdy. I can't now push the metal side to side. We've got all these boards on around the edges, and we've just got the worktop to do, because there's going to be a bit of cement board under the worktop. I've got to line the bit inside the barbecue. I'll do that in a bit. I just want to get the fronts on these. Now there's a couple of doors going in here, stainless steel doors for the gas bottles and storage. I'll show you the doors when they arrive, because they haven't arrived yet, but we're going to get the board on there for now. We can tackle that in a bit. We'll just get the rest of this boarded. Should go nice and smooth, and then tomorrow the worktop arrives and we can get the worktop on it. Now all the cement board's done, this is actually starting to come together nicely, and it's a lot further along than you'd imagine, because once we get the roof solution and the cladding on, you'll see what I'm going to use for all that in a short while, that's actually going to bring the whole thing together really, really quickly. So you can see I've put one of the roof joists on the top. I'm going to cut another one for the back and then one for the tops of the side walls. The roof solution I'm using is so light that we don't need to make the roof from very much at all. But what we do need is enough strength to, of course, tie the walls in so that the whole thing can't just fall over. So I'll cut all the 6x2s, then we'll build the thing, and to give us a pitch, I want 20mm across this metre. So to give us that pitch, I'll probably use furring strips. So of course we want to be using the least amount of timber that we possibly can, because we want to keep this thing as light as possible. It's already going to be heavy, and it's going to take a few people to move it when we want to move it, but the heavier we make it, the worse it's going to be. So the rest of the construction, the sheets that are going on the outside and the roof, I'll show you what they are shortly. They are very, very light, and they give it its rigidity even though they're extremely light. So really this is the bulk of the weight that will be in our roof in these timbers. Impact driver, long screws, pull the whole thing in tight, job done. So I've made these little furring strips. Essentially, they're a wedge that go underneath the joists and give us that pitch. Let me show you where we install these. You can see just up there, that is the furring strip, and that gives us the pitch that we want on the roof. Now, we're not worried about the little gap at the front or anything like that. I've got a custom made door. Wait for this, you're going to love this. I've got a custom made door going in here. It's something I've never seen anyone do on the internet on an outdoor kitchen, so hang around for that. But the door frame and the flashing and everything else will cover all this, so I'm not worried about that at all. All we need to do is create that pitch for the roof. And now I'm just screwing the roof to the top plates. There we go, absolutely solid. Now that's all we need to do with the roof for now until some more materials turn up, and then we will finish the roof. But the doors have just turned up. I got them from this website called Viva. I built the frame with these doors in mind. I've just got to mark around them with a pencil. There should be some studs either side. We will tile the front of this first before we fix the doors in their final position, but we do need to get them cut, ready to go in. So I mark around both the internal doors with my pencil, marking out the inner frame, and then I can remove those doors so that I can see where I need to cut. I'm then using my grinder to cut out the opening to fit the door, and we can just remove that piece of cement board. Messy old stuff cement board. There you go, 2 doors. We'll put the handles on, sort them all out later, but we know they fit for now. Next thing I want to do is install the cables for my Splash 12. What on earth is Splash 12? I hear what you're saying. Well, Splash 12 is from a place called LED Space. What it is an exterior LED light, so it's RGB. It's going to run around the top and it's going to light all this outdoor kitchen up. I've got 6 meters of the stuff, but I want to drop the cable down from the roof where it's going to be down the back of the cement board, because of course we don't want to see the cable, so we need to get it installed now before we put the cladding around the outside of the structure. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little hole in the top of the top plate there, and that's where I'm going to put my cable through. The cable will come out here, and that means we'll be able to run our lighting all the way around the top. So you can see the cable runs down through the holes in the metal studs. That's actually what they're designed for when you use this stud work on houses. This is to get cable through. I'll put some grommets and things in these a little bit later. The LED Space lighting, the Splash 12, is actually really easy to wire up. You just follow the colours on the little controller here, and then you can use a remote control. So there's going to be a remote control in here for the lighting, and it's going to work off my phone. So this thing, including the door, is all going to be remote. You'll see more about the door in a little while. So now I'm going to get these little trims that you get with it. I'm going to fix these around the top and fix them down to the top plates, and that's going to create this RGB illuminated look around the top. So you can see here I'm just screwing the trims down to the top plate, and then I'm fixing the flexible LED strip into those trims. I've used LED Space before on the channel with my media wall build. Link will be in the description if you want to see that video, and I'll also put a link down in the description for LED Space so you can grab some Splash 12 for your outside project. Now all the cement board's on and we're ready to move on to the worktop. This is a compact laminate worktop. It is the best thing to use for outdoor kitchens because it's heat resistant, and of course we've got a lot of heat, and it's weatherproof as well, and it's nice and light compared to a lot of other solutions, and of course lightweight is our friend on this one. So I am taking a measurement of the length. Now to cut this I'm going to use a track saw because A, it's nice and accurate, and B, it's going to give us the perfect cut. Now if you haven't got a track saw and you've only got a circular saw, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure you've got a nice sharp blade in there and a good straight edge so that you can get a nice clean cut. Once the length is cut, we test fit the worktop, and I draw around the barbecue opening and cut it out with my track saw. So we've cut the worktop, and now I've got some of this X-Pro stick seal. All I'm going to do is stick a load of blobs on here, and then we're going to lower the worktop down onto the adhesive.
My body's shaking every time you get into my mind. Like a fire burning wild in my
So the inside for now is pretty much done. We've just got the tiling to do, because this is all going to be tiled, and that'll make this look really, really smart. But for now, we can leave the inside alone and finish the outside. So this is what we've got for the outside walls. This is Cladco metal box profile in slate grey, and it's what we're putting on the outside, just like I have here. I've also put a bit on this side so you can get an idea of what it's going to look like. So the metal box profile is the perfect solution. It's lightweight, it's weatherproof, it's going to stop the water getting in, it's going to help to rack them walls, give it stability because it's really strong, and it's non-combustible, so it's the perfect solution for an outdoor kitchen. I'm just using some timber to give myself a little base to hold each sheet. Now, I know you're thinking, why am I not going all the way to the bottom of the base? Well, I want to paint that black with Zinsser external paint, and that's going to A, weatherproof it for many years, but B, that'll give it a nice contrast around the bottom. That's just a personal choice. You could make those longer if you wanted. You can see that these panels just overlap one another, and then you get these little screws, and all you do with those is you screw the panels together. So you can see the sides are pretty much there now, and we've got the same stuff going on the roof. The only difference with the roof, it's got the drip stop membrane underneath. This is the drip stop. It just looks like a felt. It'll carry any condensation and moisture, and then with the airflow going through the kitchen, it'll disperse that moisture rather than releasing it and dripping down inside the outdoor kitchen.
Like a drug that I just can't deny, giving me the best high. Shaking every time you get into my mind, like a fire burning wild.
Once all my sheets are on the roof, I then seal them with a sealing tape and use the stitcher screws to screw the panels together. I've got the cladding on this whole thing. I think it was about 250 quid for all the metal. And of course, I want to keep this project as cost effective as I can. This is 200mm flashing, and what that does, it goes around all the sides, it goes around the roof where the roof meets the wall, and it stops any water from getting through those joints, and of course neatens everything up. Again, we just use the stitcher screws to join it all together. And at the end of the job, you just go around and pop all these little color-coded caps over the heads of the screws. Now you'll probably notice that it's not quite finished at the front, and the reason for that is I don't want to finish the front yet because the door's going to form part of the structure, and if we do that now, if we have to make any changes to the door and I've already drilled holes in here, we could have a problem. So we'll finish all the front of this when the door arrives. Now I'm going to tile the inside walls with these nice long marble effect tiles. These are left over from another job, so they're perfect for getting these walls done because there's not a huge amount of them. I've left the protective film on the worktop for now, so we don't need to worry too much about protecting it. I've just put this on here in case I drop anything. I'm going to whiz through this. This is not a tile how-to guide. There's one of them coming in a few weeks though, which I will link in the description once it releases. So if you want to see how to tile, go and check that video out. But we're running out of time until our custom-made door arrives, so we need to get this done. Once I'd set out for my tile pattern, I applied the adhesive to the cement board with the trowel. I started tiling the walls. Now with this cement board, you don't get very long. It'll suck the moisture out of the adhesive really, really quickly. So you've got to work quite quickly. And that's what I did. Smashed through it, got the tiles on the walls. So in just over 2 hours, I've got this whole back wall done. Now, what I'm going to do is bring the tiles up slightly past the cement board, because if you look, what we then get is a nice backlit effect with the Splash 12 lighting. So we're going to get this nice illuminated effect coming up behind the tiles, and we don't see any of the trims.
On the freeway, now tell me you
So that is the last tile in. Now we can get this thing grouted. So now all the tiling's done, we've essentially got a kitchen. And what I'm going to do now is get the barbecue, pizza oven and sink installed, because it's easier to do that at this stage than it is having the doors in. That's heavy on your own. Now is where you're going to find the importance of the planning, because at the beginning we laid everything out so we knew roughly where things would go. This Gosney pizza oven gets fairly hot, so I'm making sure I leave a nice air gap around it. I just mark out for the gas pipe, and then I use a hole saw to cut the hole so that I can pass the gas pipe up through it, and the pizza oven now has a gas feed straight to the bottle. Pizza oven's in. This is a Gosney Arc. It's a mega pizza oven. I have tested it already since I got it, as you can tell, and it makes some banging pizza. So now that's in, it's time to get the barbecue in. We really are cooking on gas now. Of course, all these built-in barbecues are going to be slightly different to install, so you'll have to follow the instructions that come with them. This Napoleon is quite straightforward. All we've got to do is silicone in these little bits that go around the edges, pop some silicone under here, fix the whole thing in place and let it go off, and it'll be fixed in position. Now of course all the hard work was done when we built the opening for the barbecue, so really it is a case of just laying it in and sticking it in. That's the barbecue in. This is a really cool barbecue because these dials all light up. I think Napoleon, I don't know a huge amount about barbecues, but I think Napoleon are like the king of built-in outdoor barbecues. So I'm really looking forward to using this thing. Again, I got it from Norwich Camping and Leisure. Go show them guys some love if you're after a barbecue or a pizza oven. Now I'm going to get the sink in. All we have to do is just draw around the edge of the sink. We'll then measure in 10 mil from the edge that we draw and make a cut with a jigsaw. We'll be able to drop the sink in, get the brackets on the bottom, tighten it up, job done. Should be nice and easy. Now I can drop my sink in and clamp it in place. The hole saw's out again, let's get a hole in for the tap. Now the sink's in, we can just pop the tap in. Now most of the kitchen is fitted, I'm going to get the doors in. These stainless steel doors come with screw holes. If you want to mount them that way you can. All I'm going to do is put a bead of adhesive along that back edge so that that will sit against the tile. That'll stick these doors in. They're so lightweight, they're going to go nowhere. Silicon's on, all we got to do now is push them back in position. You can feel that silicone squishing onto the tiles. Once it's gone off, they'll be solid. Boom, doors are in. Now the doors are in, I'm just giving this whole thing a bit of exterior black paint. It's going to give a nice contrast, that black step, but it doesn't need to be overly waterproof. There's not going to be any water actually getting on here in this chipboard. You'll see why later in the video with our door solution. So now this thing's done, pretty much, we can get the door on so that it's watertight. So Tom from TWF, you've seen him before. Come in, Tom.
Hello everybody.
The roller door man. He has built a bespoke door for this outdoor kitchen. It's going to look cool, isn't it?
It's going to look amazing.
So let's start fitting it. I've never seen anyone online do a roller door on an outdoor kitchen, and it's brilliant because it's a lightweight solution and it's going to stop the weather and the rain getting in there when you shut this away for the winter, so you don't have to bring the barbecues in and all that sort of stuff. So what we've done, we've put this batten along the front. That'll get painted black along with the rest of this timber, and what that's going to do is allow the door to concertina up so that no water can get inside. If we just put the door down to this, of course we'd get water coming in. And the roller door itself has been made to the exact size of the front of the metal box section, so it's going to look mega once we've got it on. finished cutting the length, lifted the components of the door in place, fixed them in position, and then worked on the wiring. Good thing about this, the door's going to be fully automated, so we'll have a little remote and we'll be able to roll the shutter up. I've got a video on the channel that'll teach you how to install roller doors like this with an in-depth guide, so I'll link that in the description. That has actually come out even better than I expected, to be fair. I had this brainwave that I wanted a roller door to shut the whole thing away, but you know what do you think?
Looks mega, really neat, compact. Just goes to show you can use these on any opening. You can use them for anything you like. We can make everything to measure. So
check out the effect I've done with the lights. We've got the backlit tiles and then this light strip along the front, giving us that nice light onto the worktop so we can see what we're doing. And it all works RGB, and it sits on this little holder over there. Pretty cool. So we finally have an operational outdoor kitchen, and I'm kind of sad to be bringing this little project to an end, but I'm also quite pleased to be able to show you how well this project's turned out. I had no plans for this, I just went for it, winged it, and had some awesome fun building it. Now all I gotta do is learn to make a decent pizza. If you've enjoyed this one, go copy me, make one of these for yourselves, and check out one of these videos because you're bound to like them as well. I'll see you guys in the next one.